Hello everybody, welcome. Today we have a fun tutorial, some of my tips and tricks on how to square up your quilt once it's been quilted. So let me double check that the sound is working as I always do, because I've had way too many problems with this not working, so I just double check every time. One day maybe I will trust myself. Okay, it works. Well, welcome. If you're just joining me, please comment hi. I would love to know who you are and where you're watching from. I hear all the time that I have all these people watching and that I've been able to help them along with their quilting journey, and I would love to hear that. That always helps inspire me to keep making these videos for you, and comment what specific problems you face within your quilting journey. That will help me to determine what kind of videos you guys would like to learn from so that I can make them appropriate for you, because maybe I'm teaching you stuff that's easy peasy and you already know this and you would like to know something a little bit more challenging. Or maybe it's just something really simple like, how do I take care of my sewing machine? Or how do I change the needle from my machine? Or how do I know when to change my needle? And things like that. So please leave me a comment. I would love to know who you are. You can just say hi, and whatever feedback you have for me is awesome. So I'm using StreamYard to stream this. I hope that it's working well this time. Last week we had a little bit of a hiccup, so I will try to keep an eye on that little check mark that tells me that we're live, and we'll keep going. So a few announcements before I show you how to square up your quilt. Number one is our vintage Christmas class. Registration opens next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the 17th, and you can go online and learn all about that now. So if you go to journeybackquilts.com and then click on classes, you'll see a list of all of our classes and programs. Click on the Vintage Christmas and it'll take you to a page with more information on there and pictures of examples of what we're going to be making. Super fun, super cute. So make sure you mark your calendars, August 17th, so you can join for that class. You will get the book, and you can choose either online classes, which are pre-recorded videos that you can watch anytime, anywhere, as often as you would like, and work at your own pace so that you can make this project along with us, but from your own home. Then the second option is we have an in-person class that starts September 14th. So both of these classes actually start September 14th, both online and in person. The in-person is going to run for 8 weeks. Will end November 9th. We're skipping October 12th because that's my little girl's birthday. And we'll be going, let's see, Calico Cat Quilt Shop in Casper, Wyoming is hosting it for us graciously. And we'll be able to meet there from 6 to 9 every week. So I hope that you'll be able to join me. Let me know if you have any questions about this. I'm going to be working on possibly getting some quilt kits together for it and start videoing it this next couple weeks. I'm so excited to start on it. Second announcement is Farm Girl Vintage, another Lori Holt book. We have a full course on all of these blocks and how to put them together, different layout ideas, all the things from start to finish. Especially if you're a brand new quilter, this is a great class because it's going to show you all the basics of all these blocks, plus how to set up your sewing machine, how to use the rotary cutter and the ruler, and all the things. This class will open registration September 1st. So we kind of have some classes overlapping together, which is super fun, but they're both Lori Holt classes, so that's fun. Third announcement is we have a long arming special going on right now. For the next 20 quilts that we get in, they will get 20% off their long arming services. Now that includes everything. So if you need backing fabric, binding services, squaring services, batting, all the things that you will need to go with finishing your quilt top. You get 20% off that plus free thread until October 15th or until the 20 spots are filled. We only have 11 spots left. So if you have some quilts that you would like to get done before Christmas, now is the time to get them done. One, you get the discount, and two, they'll be done in time for Christmas. So if you would like to set up an appointment, if you're local to Casper, Wyoming, we can do that. Otherwise, let me know if you need to ship it to me, and I'll get you all that information. So If you're just joining me, hello and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Please leave me a comment. I loved seeing who is watching us, where you're watching from. That's always fun too. And I would love your feedback on what kind of tips and tricks you would like to learn. Maybe you're struggling with something within your quilting journey and you would like to know specifics on how you can get over this problem easier. I would love to know that so that I can help you through these problems. So, real quick, also, if you are a part of our academy, which is Your Quilting Journey Academy membership, we are doing the t-shirt quilt class right now online. So you can see behind me, I have mine on the wall. I've had it there for a couple of these videos, but I'm going to be filming that lesson here today or tomorrow. So you'll be able to see that lesson here in a couple weeks. But make sure you print out your fun little memory quilt class game board. And this is how you stay on track with keeping up with the class and getting your quilt done. Make sure you fill in those blocks so that you can win prizes when you post that picture on our private Facebook page. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at how to trim your quilt up after it's been quilted. So how do you square this up before you put the binding on? So let me change my camera view so you can see the quilt I have on the table. Okay, so this is one of my students' quilts that made this t-shirt quilt a couple weeks ago when we were at Prism Quilts. She did an amazing job. So we're going to square it up for her. I just did the long arming on it, and then it'll be good to go. So she chose a minky backing for it. Look at how soft that is, and all the design just pops out. So we found an edge-to-edge design that has all of these different sports equipments on there, a hockey puck and a mitt and football and basketball and golf and all those kinds of things. So super fun. And then we're going to square this up. Now, squaring a quilt with borders is the easiest way to do it. And I always tend to start in the upper right corner or whatever right corner I have on the table. And then I'm going to look at where my design stopped. Now, this stopped just a little bit in. I don't usually like to do that. I usually like to come out a little bit, but the backing fabric was so much shorter that I didn't have quite enough room to stretch it all the way over there. So it's going to be squared up just a touch smaller than I had planned on. But let's see, I think we can get it to be about 3.5. So I'm looking at the 3.5 inch mark here that's lining up with the edge of this border. And then I'm going to look at the 3.5 inch line here and line it up with this border. So I'm going to look right here. And my light is shining right on there really bad. Let's see if I turn that off if you can see it better. Okay, it's a little darker, but I think you can see it better now. So my 3.5 inch mark is going to sit right here on the border. So I'm going to look on this side and down here at the bottom. Let me pull that up so you can see it. So I'm just looking down here at the bottom and here on the side and lining up that 3.5 inch mark on both of those. So now you can see this line doesn't run exactly parallel with my border, and same with here. But this is how I'm going to get a square corner to my quilt. So I'm just going to cut this side and I'm going to move it back down just a touch. My cutting board is kind of in the way. And then this side. And then I'll just kind of run it off the side of the quilt so I can get a good tail, get it out of my way. Maybe. Yep, come on. There we go. It's kind of bulky right there. Okay, and then I'll just scoot it down. And then line up that 3.5 inches right on my border, looking at this end and this end. Now, sometimes you can adjust your quilt a little bit if it needs to be straightened out. so that it runs exactly parallel. But occasionally, once it's been quilted, your border might have just a little bit of a hump to it. And so I just try to line it up with the ends of the ruler the best that I can. Okay, so we're at 3.5 there. So I'm going to trim that and then scoot it down again. Hi, Sandra. Thanks for joining, and Erin too. Okay, so now I'm lining 3.5 inches with this next row. Trim. Scoot it down. Trim. Okay, now we're at another corner. So I'm going to turn my ruler so that I'm seeing just the 3.5, and I kind of get these 1/2 inch marks out of my way. So we're at 3.5 here, which looks like 9.5 at the bottom. And then 3.5 on this side here. And you can see that it's not completely perpendicular with the quilt, but it's going to make this corner square so that when we move the quilt down, we'll be able to keep going at that 3.5 inch mark. Okay, so I'm going to cut that part off and then cut that. Okay, so now we have a nice perpendicular corner. So I'm going to turn that, scoot it down a little bit. Then I'm at 3.5, and I just keep going just like that. 3.5, 3.5. So your borders, depending on what size they are, they might be 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 4 inches, just depends on what your border looks like. Now, if you don't have a border on your quilt, you can still do it the same way by lining up with one of your quilt blocks. So say your quilt blocks measure 5 inches. And so you're going to trim probably 1/2 inch off of the edge of your block and just line up that 5 inches with your block. Hopefully that made sense. Now, if you don't have a quilt block to line up with, then it gets a little bit trickier. If you just have maybe a whole cloth quilt or something like that that you're trying to square up, then you'll have to be a little bit more careful with how you do it. Using a longer ruler will help you if you're squaring up without any markings to line it up with. Okay, I'm at the corner again, so I think I'm going to turn it and get to that 3.5 inch mark on both sides. And then trim. Okay, and then we're going to rotate it again. So now I'm at the bottom. And some Minky makes a huge mess when you're trimming it like this, depending on how high the pile is on it. But this one's not doing too bad. For those that have a higher pile, I would have my vacuum sitting here next to me and be vacuuming it as I go. I would trim it here and then take the vacuum and go clean up that mess before it goes everywhere. That's the only downfall to this Minky Cuddle fabric. It can get kind of messy. Now you'll see that I'm closing my rotary cutter every single time I'm putting it down. That's because if you accidentally grabbed your rotary cutter on the blade side while it was open, you could cut yourself. So I always say close your rotary cutter when you're not using it. And having kids and puppies in the house, it's imperative that we follow that rule so that they don't get hurt either. All right, now I'm going to turn it. We're on the last side. Also, squaring up your quilt at a countertop height or raising your table up if you can is helpful, so you're not having to bend over so far. That way you can see the markings easier and you're not killing your back and your wrists trying to put pressure on all of these things while we bend over to cut it. Scoot it down. And I'm just looking at the measurements on my ruler, not on my cutting mat. The cutting mat is just there to help protect my blade and my table from getting cut. So don't worry about trying to like line it up perfectly with your mat. Okay, 3.5 and 3.5, and look at that. It just matches right up and you're done. Ta-da! So now we're ready to put the binding on. Let me switch this here. Ooh, there we go. So you can see that it is totally square and pretty. And now it's ready to put the binding on. So with this Minky, I do like using a walking foot to put the binding on so that it glides over it a little bit easier and helps me push all of that bulk through the machine a lot easier than just by hand. Also, using a machiner glove can really help because it gives those little grippies on the finger, so you're not having to claw the quilt by pushing it through. Also, let the feed dogs do the work for you. Don't just push it through with your hand. You're just there to help guide it through. If you push it, you could end up breaking a needle or skipping stitches or something like that. Just let the machine do its job and it will help you get it finished. So, well, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that you were here. If this was helpful for you, please leave me a comment and like, comment, and share so other people can join us as well. And don't forget, Tuesday, August 17th, registration opens for Vintage Christmas. We'll see you then.